Hi, I'm Mal from the Money Study, bringing you another episode of our Take 10 Challenge, up to now number 72. Yesterday we talked about this thing called the transfer balance cap and just a little bit more details on that so you completely understand it so we can move on to other things. But this is all about how that transfer cap actually goes up with indexation. Riveting stuff. There's my disclaimer. Facts, figures, information only. It is not advice. So yes, we have a transfer balance cap. And as we found out yesterday, it is restriction of $1.9 million that we are indeed allowed to move from a super fund into pension phase in our retirement. Now we learnt also that it went from 1.6 up to 1.7 and then in June it jumped up to 1.9 and the expectation is we'll go to up to 2 million, 2.1 and so forth over the next years and so. But what happens here is that if you have already started a pension, okay, then the indexation is proportioned. So let's step back a step. If you are starting from scratch, you don't have a pension, then your transfer balance cap effectively is whatever it is at the time. So let's say currently 1.9, your transfer balance cap would be 1.9. And so long as you keep under that 1.9, all is good. But instant that the $1.9 million cap goes up, let's say the cap goes from 1.9 to $2 million, does your cap increase to $2 million? No, it doesn't. It goes up, but it will not go up the full amount. Why? Because it's proportioned. So what this means is that the indexation for you only applies to the unused portion. And so once that cap is used all up, then there is no increase. There's no increase. So once you hit the ceiling, and then, so let's imagine you've got exactly $1.9 million put into your pension account, you've used up all the cap goes to $2 million, too bad. You cannot add any more because you used up the cap when the cap was 1.9. If, however, your cap you put in when the cap was 1.9, you only put in half that amount, then yes, your indexation will go up by half. So here's the example at the bottom here. Rachel transfers $850,000 in November 2022 into a pension and therefore has used indeed 50% of the cap. So when the cap indexed to 1.9, so the cap was 1.7, it indexed to 1.9 on July 2023. Rachel's cap increased by the 50% because she only used half. The other half was unused. The bit that's unused, that half basically is an indexation. So therefore, if the full increase was $200,000, like it was in that particular year, she got half of the $200,000 increase, meaning a $100,000 increase. Her cap went to 1.8. And so therefore, she could add an extra on top of her $850, a further $950 to get her up to that $1.8 million. So Rachel's, therefore, once she's put that money in, her cap, once she's hit that 1.8 that she's created, that would be the end of the story. She wouldn't be able to add any further money to pension because if she added the 950, she's hit her cap of the 1.8. So again, let's go back to our statement and we can see here that this person had 1.234642.51 is what they actually had in pension phase, 1.234 mil. And so we need to work out if the cap goes up by, like it did in that particular time, by $200,000, what would be this person's new TBC? Okay, so when they had the 1.2, their cap was 1.7. The cap's gone to 1.9, but what is their new cap? And so here's a bit of algebra for you and so forth. But basically what we're doing here is we're taking the unused cap percentage, and we just round it down to the nearest whole number, And we therefore basically say, okay, what is that unused cap as a percentage of the transfer balance cap? So, and then we need to find out, subtract that from 1 to create and multiply by a percentage. So basically what we do here is you can just literally, Michael had 1.234 mil, divided by the 1.7, gives us the fraction that we subtract from 1, multiplied by 100, and the answer is 27.4%. Meaning that 27.4% was the unused bit. It was the unused bit. So it's effectively meaning that you could see that if you actually just, if you don't quite understand the maths, if you just sort of said 1.234 divided by 1.7 gives us sort of like around about 73%. That's the amount that you did use. Subtract that from 100 to get the bit that you haven't used, in which case, this case, 27.4%. So if the increase was $200,000, then this person gets 27.4% of the 200,000, which is 54,800. 54,800. Therefore, that's added to the 1.7 cap that they previously had. And Michael's cap goes from 1.7 to 1.754,800. So you can see this is going to get awfully confusing, because people are going to look at the cap and think, okay, yep, the cap's just gone up, you beauty, I can stick, much more money into my super fund. But it depends on how much money did they put into the super fund initially, into the pension phase, how much money did they put into pension initially. The more they put in when the cap was smaller, when the indexation goes up, the smaller their increase that they, in their total, I think, in their transfer balance cap. So we can have people with completely, you could be sitting next to a guy that you started at the same time with your pensions, but literally within a few years, your transfer balance caps are totally different because you started off with different amounts of money in the first place. Remembering that this is across all of your pensions, it's not just in one fund. If you've got 2 or 3 pensions for whatever reasons, you might have had different funds in different super funds, and you've just left them in those particular accounts or whatever. It's taken across all of your pension accounts. Okay, so we can keep a track. This will come up on your MyGov account the following year. It'll show you what your new TBC cap is. So if you start to lose track, just go back to your MyGov to find out what your transfer balance cap is. We do not want to go over your transfer balance cap. Okay, they will basically, they'll basically make you take this money out. Now, of course, this gets far more complicated, and I'm not going to make it more complicated just yet, but we'll leave that for another day. But of course, it gets far more complicated if your partner who's got a pension passes away and leaves you a pension that you might be getting. A pension as what they call a reversionary pensioner. They had a pension, they die, you receive the pension, and of course it gets added on top of your transfer balance cap. You do not inherit your partner's transfer balance cap as well. So this can really cause problems as far as how do you manage your money should you indeed inherit another pension. And of course it becomes quite problematic also for, dare I say, a younger person who may be receiving some sort of a disability, invalidity type pension very early in life, which could have been, not overly big, but because of they got it so young in life, all the indexation on this thing is limiting them what they can have in normal pensions perhaps later on. So a lot of ramifications. It's something that if you don't understand it, you certainly need to get help. Either come and talk to us, or talk to your accountant just before you do anything by putting large amounts of money into your pension account, to ensure that you haven't done anything dumb that you understand what's happened when your transfer balance cap gets indexed. What a fun topic. Anyway, we'll talk about perhaps some simpler things in the next few weeks or two. Look forward to you joining me on one of those sessions.